Okay, Hal, let me actually start by how you changed my life.
Okay.
So I actually looked into this. We met in 2014, and in 2015 we spoke at an event together in Toronto. And that was the time where I actually discovered your book, The Miracle Morning. And 2015 was one of the most transformative years for me. So that year, I decided, or I made a hard decision to quit my real estate career, which was successful. I wasn't struggling. I was doing really well, but it wasn't aligned with me. And
Yeah.
in 2014, I had started my Archangel project as almost like a side business.
Yeah.
But it felt like real estate was a marriage of convenience, and Archangel was my soulmate. And it was a real struggle internally of what do I do? And I not only read your book, I took action with it and started developing morning rituals and routine. And then in 2016, I quit the real estate. I shed 70 pounds. I met the woman of my dreams. I started our big Archangel Summit events. The first one had 1,500 people. My whole life changed, and I literally can contribute it all to the catalyst being reading your book. So that's how I want to start this conversation. And I want to get into the type of conversation that you and I typically have when we meet up for coffee or a protein smoothie or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that people aren't privy to, because I feel like we've unlocked a lot of secrets in our lives that have made us both super successful. And I want to share all of that with everybody. And I want to I'll start off by plugging the book. So this is the new expanded edition, which just came out. So I'm super excited. It just came out in the US, correct?
Yeah.
Any other countries, or US only for now?
UK, I believe UK, US, and then Canada. You can pre-order it in Canada. You'll get it January 9th. And in Australia, I think it's out right now as well. So I think it's UK, US, Australia, and Canada pretty soon.
Amazing. And part of today too, I want to share with you some stuff I've learned that have been instrumental in how I design my days. And I want to know how you do it too. So there's this concept I call time optimization.
Yeah.
Because I think people use the phrase time management, and I think there needs to be a level above that, where I see time as the ultimate currency, and I treat it like a currency. We use phrases like I spend time, the word spend, right?
Yeah.
I
invest my time.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like we all have that same amount of currency, no matter who you are, where you are in life. But there are ways to invest it that has an ROI, a return on investment of that time. Yeah. And maybe let's start with how do you design your days? Like, I know you have the framework in terms of the morning.
Yeah.
How do you think about, let's say right now or later on today or whenever you do this, what's happening tomorrow for you?
So I call it my foundational schedule. Part of it is probably out of necessity, because I've suffered from brain damage when I was 20 years old, and then again at 37, and I don't have much of a memory. So if you say, what's going on tomorrow, I'm like, I don't know. Let me go check my schedule. And I have as much rhythm and routine as possible, so I know what happens typically on a Monday or a Tuesday and right? Each day has kind of its own rhythm. So I only schedule appointments on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Mondays and Fridays. Monday is kind of an open day where I can think and I can plan and I can really get ready for the week without feeling like I just have to jump into it and I have to react. So Mondays are really creating a space to think through the week, plan. Fridays like my closeout, where I look back at the week, go, is there anything I didn't get done that needs to get done today? How can I really transition where I feel complete as I can, to go into the weekend so I can be fully present with my family? So that's how the week looks. And then on a day-to-day basis, my schedule, I wake up at the same time every day. I go to bed at the same time. I eat at the same time for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, to the point where I think I've developed a little OCD where I'm like, I'm supposed to eat. It's 30 minutes past dinner time. So my wife will probably tell you it's a superpower, and it's got its dark side. But yeah, so for me, I wake up most days it's either at 3:30, 4, or 4:30, and it depends on, as a parent, I have flexibility, because it's like, if I'm up with my kids a little late, Or the other, I gave a speech 2 nights ago at an event in Austin, and we didn't get out of there till 10 p.m., right? So sleep is something I used to not value enough. I always valued productivity over sleep. I think a lot of us do. In fact, in general, until I got cancer a few years ago, I realized I value productivity above health, above probably my family back then too often, right? It's almost like we value productivity above everything else. And a lot of people die because of that, get divorced because of that, end up sick because of that, right? So that was an important piece, is to realize, where's productivity? It should be in alignment with your other values, right, and in alignment with thriving with each of your other values, but it should never trump them to where you go, I'm going to cut my sleep down. I'm going to eat crappy food, fast food. I think health, those need to be at the top. But so for me, I wake up at 3:30, 4:30. I do a miracle morning for an hour. And then I transition into whatever my highest work priority is for the day. So let's say miracle morning, 4 to 5 a.m., 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. as I look at my to-do list at the end of the miracle morning, and I say, okay, of everything on my to-do list today, what's the number one thing that will move the needle the most? Because human nature for us is to do the opposite. It's to go, okay, what are the easy things? Yeah, I don't want to look at that one that I really need to do, that I should do, because it's scary. It's out of my comfort zone. I'm gonna check email. Then I'm gonna organize my office. I've been needing to do that for a while. I'm gonna organize we like gravitate toward the things with no consequence or very little consequence. So right, for me, I look at my to-do list and I go, what's the number one thing that'll move the needle? And then I get that done first. And then I go into family. I have an hour of family time from 7 to 8 a.m. in my schedule. I used to not have that before cancer. It was, hey, sweetheart, my wife, get the kids ready, take them to school, pick them up, because we'll just divide and conquer, all work. Now it's, no, I get an hour with my family in the morning, and it's not perfect. Sometimes it's cut to a half an hour, but I make sure I'm with the kids in the morning. I'm helping get ready. And then I pick them up from school on most days during book launch. My wife will tell you, Hal's a little off on his rituals, but that's the anchor where it's like, I'm always committed to do these things. And sometimes we're all going to waver. Nobody's perfect. It's not about perfection. It's about having a system in place, a schedule in place that is in alignment with your values.
I think, first of all, that's brilliant. And going back to putting productivity above all else, there's a magic word that I want to teach everyone, which is the word constraint. And I'll share what I mean by that, because I think some people even listening or watching right now are thinking, yeah, that's great for you that you can do this, but I have all of these, but I have too many commitments, too many things, my kids, my work, whatever it might be. And I actually think those commitments are a gift and a superpower, because it creates constraint. And if you create more constraint in your rituals, you can be even more productive. And I'll share what I mean. So actually with a story first, have you ever seen the Matrix movie?
Of course.
Have you seen part 2 and 3?
Of course.
Okay. So most people that I know think the Matrix, the first film, was one of the best films ever. And then it's kind of hit or miss what people think about part 2 and 3. And here's why. When they made the first, and same with kind of Star Wars too, when they made the first one, they had budget constraints, they had time constraints, they had actor constraints. So they had to get creative with how they did things. And it created a masterpiece. Then they were given carte blanche with money. It's like, here's $10 trillion, make the next one. And without constraint, it was actually weird for the creative process. And I think that productivity constraint or scheduling constraint actually creates more productivity, because we will just fill the time reactively. But if you are proactive, and you even mentioned, I have family time in my calendar. And I think the first step of all of this, and for myself is included, is if it's not scheduled, it's not proactive. And then you will reactively do things that leak time, which could be scrolling on social media or watching television or whatever it could be. And actually, let me teach you something that my wife Stephanie taught me from her genius health and science background.
Yeah, please.
She changed my life with my ritual. So my routine now is I'm not allowed to talk to people until noon. And let me explain.
I love that.
So and this is based on my genetics and based on my hormonal patterns. So my testosterone peaks in the morning and then weans off, and then my estrogen actually is better in the afternoon. And what she taught me was batch all of your thinking, strategy, ideation, writing,
Wow.
alone time stuff in the morning,
Yeah.
and then batch all of your talking, whether it's coaching or calls or relationship stuff, in the afternoon. And because of that one shift, and it's based on hormones, um, I'm probably 3 times more productive now than I used to be, and more energetic. And I think, you know, all of this boils down to energy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember the days before I met you where I would have to take a nap at 3 in the afternoon. There
Yeah.
were actually days I'd have to take a nap at 8 a.m. because of my batteries being depleted.
Mm.
And now,
Wow.
at 5 p.m., I still have full energy because
Yeah.
of these shifts in ritual.
Well, I do something very similar, energetic to, yeah, to me, managing, like you mentioned, time management versus time optimization. I forgot what book it was, The Power of Focus, I think, or Powerful Engagement, that talked about energy management is more important than time management, right? When you have optimal energy levels,
Right.
then you can do anything, right? But even if you manage your time well, if your energy is low, energy and motivation go hand in hand, right? So if you've got something on your schedule that's really, really important and you effectively manage the time to do it, but you didn't manage your energy and now you're exhausted, good luck, right? So I'm very similar. I schedule all of my talking in the afternoon. And the reason that I do it is because, and it's interesting, it might actually be the testosterone and I'm not aware of it. But for me, it's my brain starts to shut off in the afternoon. Like I've been up since 4 a.m., right? So my cognitive ability, like my batteries are depleting. But when I talk to another human being, it energizes me. I could be exhausted and then jump on a call with you and I'm like on fire. And I know that about myself. So if I'm doing important, productive solo work in the afternoon, my brain is just not there. So I got to get it all done before I eat lunch. And then I schedule all my interviews in the afternoon. So yeah, very similar.
There's a caveat, I think, and let me clarify
Mm.
with you, because I think there are 4 currencies. I spell the word term. So time is one of them. You mentioned energy, which is another one. Money is the last one, but the R is relationships. And what I mean by that is the people you are speaking with when you're doing the talking are probably people who charge your batteries.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Because
That's a good point.
I used to have people who drained my batteries.
Drained your batteries. Yeah, that's a good point.
So that may affect the energy currency, as a caveat. And I think part of this is, who are you surrounding yourself with? What is the environment? Because energy is the ultimate thing, and
Yeah,
they're all related: time, energy, relationships, and money. Because if
totally.
you want more of the last one, you can optimize the first three.
Yeah, yeah, very true.
So you mentioned sleep, and this is another massive. I actually call it the first domino, because if you want to have an amazing day, you have to start the day before.
Yeah.
I as well had not realized how valuable and important sleep optimization is. So I'm curious, are there things that you've discovered for yourself that have helped your or help improve your sleep quality?
So for me, I didn't have an evening ritual. And then in 2020, I had been on chemotherapy for my cancer for about 3 years, and it just wreaked havoc on my brain. And I finally got to a point where my brain, I felt like kind of almost broke. It was hard to explain, but I'm like, if somebody just like flipped a switch and turned your brain, like it broke your brain. I started sleeping 2 to 4 hours a night. And that went on for about 6 months. And so if you ever slept 2 to 4 hours a night in one night, you are a wreck the next day. If you accumulate that over 6 months, I was literally suicidal. If I didn't have a family, I don't know what I would have done. But I was so miserable. I developed extreme anxiety. I wasn't myself. I felt like I lost the ability to be happy. I was at the lowest point in my life, mentally and emotionally, for sure. And so that prompted me to go on a relentless quest to figure out how do I solve this? I started working with Michael Bruce, who's known as the sleep doctor. He's in the Miracle Morning documentary as such. And I reached out to him for help. And essentially, I figured it out. I turned my sleep stuff around. I now sleep 7 hours a night, every night, like a baby. And so when I was writing the new Miracle Morning book, right, you'll see in here there's 70 pages of new content. The Miracle Evening is one of those chapters. And it's the 7 steps that I go through in the evening to prepare myself for sleep. It's what Dr. Michael Bruce calls landing the plane. Like, you got to set your runway up so that you can land the plane. Otherwise it crashes at night, and and you don't crash. Like, right. You go to bed stressed, overwhelmed, and anxious. So I can go into as much detail of this as you want, but I'm just going to tell you the biggest premise to me of having a miracle evening is getting clear on what your objective is when you're preparing for bed. And most of us are not clear on our objective. So we're thinking of things and dwelling on mental and emotional states that do not serve us. We're worried about what happened, replaying events of the day. We're projecting into the future, afraid of what might happen. We're looking at the economy and what might happen. We're thinking about our bank account balance. None of those things do you have control over when you are laying in your bed. And what I realized in 2020 is that when we focus on things that are out of our control, which all of us have been doing more in the last 3 years than maybe ever before, we focus on things that are out of our control, we feel out of control. And feeling out of control causes stress, it causes fear, it causes anxiety, and it all leads to depression or some version of it. And so I realized that as a rule of thumb in life, we've got to focus all of our energy only on things that we can control. The rest is futile. There's no point in focusing on something out of your control other than being aware of what you can do within your control that might be able to mitigate a risk or address something going on in your life or in the world. So the premise of the miracle evening is this, is that at night, the only thoughts you should be thinking and feelings you should be generating are those that lead to peaceful, restful sleep. I go to sleep every night. I call it, so the subtitle of that chapter is The Miracle Evening, Your Strategy for Blissful Bedtime and Better Sleep. I go to sleep every night. By the way, I'll go into my bedroom and go, oh my God, this was a stressful day and I got this thing tomorrow. And as soon as I hit the bedroom, I go, nope, flipping the switch. And I teach you how to do this. Like I give you 7 steps, but I flip the switch and I go, nope, my bedroom is a sanctuary. No stressful thoughts are allowed in here. I'm going to think grateful, peaceful thoughts. And so for me, every night I drift off just feeling blissful. And Giovanni, the last thing I want to say, and this allude to what you said, is like, you got to start the night before. Think about this, everybody. Your first thought in the morning is almost always whatever your last thought was that you dwelled on before you fell asleep. And more importantly, your mental and emotional state in the morning is the mental and emotional state that you dwelled on when you fell asleep. If you were a kid on Christmas Eve and you were excited when you fell asleep, you woke up excited it was Christmas. If you go to bed stressed out about your marriage and the person laying next to you, you wake up stressed out about your marriage or your life or whatever it is. And so that is crucial, that you have an evening ritual that allows you to fall asleep feeling at peace, feeling safe, feeling grateful, so that you wake up feeling the same.
So much to unpack there, and stuff I want to add to. I think because I'm thinking about what are the things that I do with my wife and my family, and that I almost take for granted now because I forget that I've changed habits. So, for example, well, we have no TVs in our bedrooms. And I know that I used to almost want to fall asleep to
watching TV,
playing. Yeah. But the blue light from TV actually really messes with your circadian rhythms. Yeah. And really, we don't watch TV for a few hours before bed. Yeah. And then I had a terrible habit in the past where I felt like if I didn't eat right before bed, that I would starve, or it was like this scarcity brain programming,
some sort of childhood issue. I would guess. Yeah,
sure, right. So, but that, having to have your body digest is not a smart thing, or at least not in my experience. And here's a wild one. So I also barely have sugar anymore, like any kind of sugar.
Me too. You and I are so similar, man.
But when I do, and I've tested this now, and this is so wild, sugar leads to nightmares or tense dreams.
Yeah.
Again, this is all anecdotal. This is not science. This is my own experience, but I've tested this because I love experimenting. And it's very interesting for me that I often will have tense sleep, and the kind where you wake up almost in a panic. And to me, it's directly related to sugar.
Yeah.
Or foods that don't serve.
Yeah. Yeah. Unhealthy foods, right? Yeah. Preservatives, just unhealthy foods.
But back to, peaceful, blissful sleep, and things out of your control. I think part of my evening ritual, it's also part of the daytime as well, but having an appreciation practice and gratitude, where it's so funny to say this because 10 years ago, if someone said this to me, I thought that's such a
Soft.
woo.
Yeah.
But everyone who's super successful that I know has a ritual around gratitude because of the science behind it. Because if you focus on the things you have to be grateful for, you don't have time to worry. You can replace anxiety and panic and worry and stress and fear and all those things with love and appreciation and gratitude for things that are in your control. And you're we all have this powerful narration power in our brain. Like we're not just the hero of the story, we're also the script writer and the narrator and the set designer. And it's, how we think and what we choose to think about is actually way more in our control than we think. So how do you, I'm curious, how do you choose to think?
Brian Johnson, our friend that'll be speaking at the Archangel event with me next year, which is exciting. He calls it targeted thinking, which is right. You have to align your thoughts with what it is what serves you, or what moves you where you want to go, or what allows you to feel the way you want to feel. For me, affirmations are one of the 6 practices of the Miracle Morning, right? The savers, SAVERS, for those that don't know: silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. Affirmations are my favorite of the savers. I believe they are the most misunderstood, mistaught, and the most effective form of personal development. I also recently, it was probably just a few weeks ago, I said something I've never said before, and I was like, oh, how didn't even make it in the book, but it's that affirmations are the anchor of my miracle morning. And they are really the anchor of my life. And what I mean by that is the way affirmations are taught are often very goofy. Like, I'm a money magnet and money flows to me effortlessly. And, I'm a millionaire, even though if you're not, and, we're lying to ourselves to try to trick ourselves. And there's all these weird, goofy affirmation techniques that I think have really given affirmations a bad name. The way that I affirm things is very, very clear. It's rooted in truth, it's practical, and it's actionable. Step 1, affirm what you're committed to. So in every goal you have in your life and every role. So as a father, here's what I'm committed to. Step 1. Step 2, affirm why it's a must for you. What are the reasons that are so important, so compelling? Why are you doing this? Who are you doing it for? So that when you don't feel like it, you remind yourself, it doesn't matter if I feel like it. I'm doing it for my spouse, for my kids, for me, for my future. Step 3, affirm which actions you will take and when. That's where the rubber meets the road. If you only do the first 2, right, you might not get where you want to go. You got to be really clear. Here's what I'm committed to. Here's why it's a must. And so therefore, I'm going to take these actions on these days of the week at these times. And so those 3 steps to me are programming. They are directing my thoughts toward my commitment and reminding me why, and reminding me what I'm going to do to get there. And one way, and this is worth writing down if you're taking notes, what you affirm becomes your reality. What you affirm becomes your reality. And so my reality becomes my commitments, the reasons why, and the actions I need to get there. And again, I apply that formula to my financial goals and my fitness goals and my goals as a dad and as a husband. And right, I've got, a page and a half, 2 pages of affirmations, depending on the time of, my life. And by the way, the other thing I'll say is they're always rough draft. They're never final draft. As you learn and grow and evolve and have new insights and ideas, my affirmations are in a Word document that I print out, and I have a pen and during my miracle morning, and I'll be like, ooh, I'll write something down. Ooh, that's an idea. Ooh, that's a quote from a book. And I should add that. And then once the page gets messy enough, I go back into Microsoft Word and I update my affirmations, print out a new version. But my affirmations are my anchor. They are always keeping me focused on the most important commitments in my life, the most important reasons why, and the necessary actions to get there.
I love all of that.
Thank you.
You mentioned the savers, which is the framework from your book, Scribing. I want to dive deeper into that. Explain what it is and how you do it.
Yeah, so scribing is a fancy word for journaling, but the J would have made savers an awkward acronym, right? Saverja. So yeah, so here's how I journal. And for those that don't know, by the way, there is a Miracle Morning app. It's a free app that has a built-in journal that has these prompts in it. So you can already, like, you can scribe with if you like to do digital. I actually prefer, even though I have an app, I actually prefer by hand. So I don't use the app for the journaling part. But here's the three things that I journal. Actually, I'll start with two, because I added a third one to the new book. Only one. I didn't want to, like, just to add to add. I wanted to keep things as simple as possible. Number one, I've always journaled what I'm grateful for. And I want to explain something. There is a difference. You talked about the power of gratitude, having a gratitude practice. There's a big difference between what I call intellectual gratitude and heartfelt gratitude. Oh. Intellectual gratitude is what if you were taking a quiz, or if someone said, what are you grateful for? Tell me. You're like, my family, my house, that I have a roof over my head. Like, you're just literally listing things off to list them off. And that's where a lot of people, I think that's the level of gratitude. If they even get there, they don't go much deeper. Heartfelt gratitude is when you write down something you're grateful for, like your child. And then for me, I put my hand on my heart and I picture my child. I picture my daughter, Sophia, and I smile. And I think about, and I picture her smiling, and I just feel deeply grateful. In fact, the goal is to cry. I don't cry very easily, so I rarely get to that point. But my point is that you want to feel so grateful. And by the way, a little bonus trick, the way that I can get to that point is I imagine losing the thing that I'm grateful for. Oh. That often helps amplify the gratitude. So you think, especially if you're in a conflict with, let's say, your spouse, right? And you're like, I can't be grateful for them. Well, imagine them dying. As morbid as that might sound, imagine your child dying. Imagine having your home taken from you, right? Like, I've had times where I'm like, oh, this isn't the perfect house. I want a different house. We should have bought a different house. And then I just go, imagine having no house. Imagine having the home taken away and having nowhere to, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh God, thank God I didn't lose my child. Thank God I didn't have my home taken away. So I'll often use this opposition where I think of the opposite, losing the thing. And then when I come back to reality, it amplifies the gratitude. So anyway, intellectual gratitude is writing it down. Heartfelt gratitude is putting your hand on your heart and really feeling deep sense of gratitude. Second thing I write down, I've always written down, is what's my number one priority for today? I mentioned that earlier, I think, that like you have got a bunch of things on the to-do list, right? That's how I'm transitioning. Scribing is usually the last part of my savers, right? It's the end of the Miracle Morning. I go, okay, I'm about to go into my work day. I look over my work list. I go, okay, I got 15 things on the to-do list. And again, what's the number one thing that'll move the needle, right? I said that earlier, but I didn't tell you it is part of my scribing process. Now, the question that I asked myself to add is actually on the front end. It is now the first question I asked before the gratitude question. It is there anything I need to let go of? Whoa. So I'll get quiet and I'll go and I'm searching for inner turmoil. I'm searching for fear. I'm searching for anger. I'm searching for regret. I'm searching for mental or emotional states that don't serve me, that are bogging me down, that are sitting in my subconscious mind and that are creating inner conflict. And so I'll go, what do I need to let go of? Yeah, I can't control the economy right now. I that doesn't serve me to sit in this fear of what if. So I write down, I'm afraid that the economy might affect my finances, right? Or whatever it is. I write it down, and the power in taking, pen to paper, or you can type it, whatever, is that now it's separate from me. Now I've given myself permission. I don't have to let it rest in my subconscious because I'm afraid of it, and I don't want to let it go because it's a real fear, and I need to hold on to it so that I can handle it. No, now it's outside of me, and I could deal with it now if I want to, or I can revisit it later today or tomorrow, or if it's something from the past, it might be like, hey, I'm still wishing this thing didn't happen, but it did happen. This is a waste of my energy. I'm done. I'm putting it in my journal. I'm closing it and I'm letting it go. So that for me is the first thing that I ask in my journaling so that I can get rid of the inner turmoil and create space for me to show up at my best.
That is amazing. Oh, so good. I want to share when you taught me about scribing, because I'm a nerd and my wife is a nerd, and we're like, how do we do this in a way that's us, that makes the most sense? And I wanted to share with you what I've done, because I think you'll love this.
Yeah.
We created a Google sheet that's shared between the two of us that we call our best day ever sheet, and every day we fill it out. And we do it on Google Sheets so that we can share it.
Yeah.
And there's another reason I'll explain in a second. But what we do is, first we have a gratitude section, and it has 3 cells. So the first one is why we're grateful for the other person. So we start every day where I write in my little side why I'm grateful for Stephanie. She writes why she's grateful for me. But we can both see what the other person wrote, and it creates an amazing connection between the two of us. Then the second thing is who else we're grateful for that day, and then what else we're grateful for that day. So that's gratitude. Then we go into our priorities and tasks, and we always start with what is the most important thing today, just so similar to you. And then we have other sections that are more productivity based, but to me the most important thing that wasn't there before was celebration. So let me show what I mean by that. As things happen throughout the day, we used to just verbally talk and say, how did you win today? Or what should we celebrate? And we would share it, or what are you grateful for? Yeah. And then not keep track.
Yeah.
And then we realized, wait a minute, when the stressors come up, or because we all have stuff, no matter who someone is. But now what we do is we actually keep track of it, and then we have things to celebrate. And now, because we do it in a Google sheet where there's like a tab for each day, we can go back and say, let's what happened this week? What happened this month? What happened this year? And you know how incredible it is to see even the tiniest little, and we don't just celebrate big things. Yeah. We celebrate all of the things. Like we flew to Miami recently, and we were upgraded, or not upgraded. We were, when you're boarding a plane, there's zones or different levels. We're like, wow, we got zone 2. This is amazing for this small little flight to get zone. So zone 2, that's in our little journal thing. And we were in our Uber, and in Miami, our Uber driver, there was like a disco ball and music playing, and there was a live DJ playing, a live DJ on the screen in the Uber, and we had a little mini dance party. So we wrote that down. And as we keep track of these personal wins and celebrations and business things, you realize actually how far you've come. And I think a thing that's in your control is celebration of things that have happened that have been a positive for you. And we tend to forget those more than we remember the painful things, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, and that's why I love, 5-minute journal, right? I've used that. I'm sure you did too, right? Created by friends of ours. But I use that for so many years. I still use that to capture one picture every day from something in my life. But that for me, I talk about this in the book, that the most valuable part of journaling for me isn't actually the daily journaling. It's been it's probably close to a tie, but it's been the review of the journal in the future. Because we often end a year and you go, man, I didn't reach all my goals this year. Like I fell short in this area and I'm struggling in this area. And you often go from year to year to year to year to year feeling like kind of a failure. Right. And the first time I did this journal review, I remember it was probably a decade ago, after I was a year or two into the Miracle Morning, or a few years in the Miracle Morning. And I was like, oh man, this year was okay. I mean, I don't feel good about it. I fell short in so many, it's the gap in the gain by Ben Hardy, right? Like, there's this gap between where I wanted to be. I'm not there. And then I went back and I read through all of my journal entries. It took me like an entire day. Right. And I had a piece of paper and I'm making notes of all my wins on one side and like my lessons on the other side. And then I think I had a third column. It was my commitments. Like, what am I going to do differently? Right. So it was wins, lessons, and what I'm going to do differently, and, or commitments. And at the end, I had a list of like, I don't know, like there were 23 or 37. I forgot the number, but it was a ton of wins, and I go, I feel like I just had the best year of my life. And it was because I became present to the things that I did well. And in life, you got to think about it. We got short memories and life just keeps moving so fast that you forget your wins, you forget the things to celebrate. And by capturing them and then going back and looking at them, and now I don't just do it yearly, I do it like once a month or so. I'll go back to my journal entries at the end of the month. It's like a trigger. Oh, today's the 30th or the 31st of the month. And I go back and I just flip through all my journal entries and I go, wow, what a great freaking month. But had I not done that, I'd be in the present moment going, I'm not where I want to be. I'm not, life's a pain in the ass, whatever. And so it's like that celebration that you're talking about is absolutely crucial.
It's huge. Our brains are designed to be negative, and it's a protection mechanism to keep us alive and keep us safe. Right. And there's a threat everywhere. Unless we train the prefrontal cortex or the front of the brain, like the human part of you, realize that you are actually in control of that, and you can take control. And it's such a powerful reframe. This is amazing. And there's another massive thing that I've done to shift my mood, and to stay in positivity, which is movement. And exercise is one of your savers. And I want to dive into this because I made a commitment exactly a year ago, where we during the pandemic years we trained at home, meaning like workouts and stuff, but it was sporadic. Sure. And a year ago I said, let's actually get a gym membership, and commit. It was not about the membership, it was about the commitment. And I said, we're working out every single day, every single morning. Nice. And we've done that almost 365 times, right? So, but it's not about just working out. Like I want to start by saying the movement first creates positivity. Even if you're walking
totally
in the morning, like it doesn't have to be weight training, although I highly recommend moving heavy things around in a strategic way, because there's so many health benefits to muscle, even for women, especially for women. If you just follow my wife, Dr. Stephanie Estima, she lifts as heavy as I do, and she's not bulky in any way. She's very beautiful and sexy.
Funny, my wife's the exact same. She's so freaking strong. It's crazy. Yeah.
But from a longevity perspective and health perspective, all that, and follow her advice for the movement or specific exercise training. But I actually think making a movement practice on a daily basis shifts your mood. Yeah. And if for anyone who suffers from things like anxiety or fear, or panic, or partially because you're actually getting more oxygen. And I think breathing techniques help for all of this as well. And I'm curious, what is your regimen or practice around movement and exercise?
So yeah, for exercise, what I tell people is as part of your miracle morning, you don't need to go to the gym first thing in the morning. No. It's not about that. It's about movement, to your point. And as little as 60 seconds of jumping jacks is all that is needed to have a profound impact on your physical, mental, and emotional state in the morning. So imagine this. Imagine you come out of bed and you're like, oh, I got brain fog. I'm so tired. I'm like, oh, I can barely, keep my eyes open. You're not effective. You're not going to have a great miracle morning, right? So if you stand up and you just 60 seconds of jumping jacks, right? At the end of those 60 seconds, you're breathing heavy, right? The blood and oxygen is now flowing to your brain. That brain fog is gone. And you now have not only more energy, as our friend Robin Sharma says, the benefits of morning exercise are scientifically proven to last for as long as 13 hours after the initial exercise. So your energy is increased through that short part of exercise. And but beyond that, your mental clarity, your cognitive function, your ability to focus is now enhanced. And so for me, I'll do 60 seconds of jumping jacks, in the morning. Sometimes I'll meditate first. It depends. It depends on my state. If I wake up, and that's a lot of the savers, by the way, a good thing is, or a good thing to point out is I talk in the new book about customizing the miracle morning and the savers to fit your lifestyle. Like, this is not an all or nothing pursuit. It's not, you don't have to wake up at a specific time each day. You don't have to do all 6 of the savers every day. You don't have to do them for a specific preset amount of time. There's flexibility in all of it, right? Some days you might do a 6-minute miracle morning when you don't have a lot of time. Some days you might do a 60-minute miracle morning when you've got a full blown, maybe it's a 30-minute on average. It's very flexible. But so for exercise, I do 60 seconds of jumping jacks when I need to get energized. And then I have I have free weights at home and a bench, and I have my own little home workout pull-up bar, and I do about a 10-minute workout at the end of my miracle morning. I go and do a 10-minute workout before I engage with the family. So that's typically my morning exercise routine. And it's been different, by the way, Gio. I was training for an ultra marathon when I created the Miracle Morning, and I thought, how could I create the ultimate level of fitness? And I committed to run 52 consecutive miles, which is 112 kilometers up in Canada. Um, but uh, but but for me, so running was a part of my daily Miracle Morning, right? I don't run anymore, not often. So it evolves over time, and it changes based on your preferences and your objectives.
You also have reading as one of your savers, and I'm curious if you have a reading practice. And before you answer, I've found that everything I've ever read, the majority of books I've read have been nonfiction or personal development or business growth type books. And now I'm trying to make it more of a practice to, in the morning, read those kinds of books, like life-changing, business-changing books, and then in the evening to read fiction. Because
writing a note to myself, start reading fiction in the evening.
Well, the reason is I like to take notes when I'm reading. I like to actually take action on anything that's going to affect my life, my identity, my business.
Totally.
I treat it more like I'm a student. Than just passively reading. That's why I can't do that. I find it difficult to do that in the evening because if I activate my brain too much, I have trouble sleeping. But I'm now starting to add fiction to evenings so that instead of like replacing TV watching with fiction reading. But I'm curious, what is your practice around?
Yeah. So maybe we can learn from each other, because I'll share with you what I've been doing, and I talk about this in the new book, and I love it. So I'll try the fiction, but I like what I'm doing so much, and you might like what you're doing, that we're not willing to switch here or do the other person's practice. But what I do is this: I have in my bedside table, my nightstand right next to my bed. There's probably 8 or so books in there. They're books that I've already read, and I've already underlined and taken notes in the margins. And they're all books that enhance my emotional state. Books like The Inner Work, which is one of my favorite. Books like Loving What Is by Byron Katie. Books like Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul. These are books that remind you that you actually are perfect as you are. You're in, and that needs explanation because, well, anyway, you get what I'm saying, right? Like, you're whole as you are, you're worthy as you are. Happiness is a choice. And they're books I've already read because, to your point, I have to think too hard if I'm looking for what am I going to underline and what am I going to circle and what am I going to write about. So I'm only reading books that I've already done that to. So my mental bandwidth is it's light. I don't have to put a lot of energy into it. And all I read are the things I've underlined that I've already deemed previously that I want to revisit and remember. So that's the 2 criteria: books that I've already read so they don't take a lot of mental bandwidth, and books that are in alignment with that primary miracle evening objective that I talked about earlier, which is to go to bed feeling peaceful, grateful, blissful, so that I can drift off to sleep. And often I'll be reading a book and I'll read one line and go, oh, that's amazing. And then I just shut the book. It might be the first line I read, but like literally I'll take a concept that I read and I go, oh yeah, life is whole and perfect as it is, whatever it is. I close it, I put the book back, and then I just sit there and I think about that as I'm drifting off to sleep, feeling great.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a few questions from the attendees here, so I'll ask them to you. Michael's asking, what are the most effective ways to introduce these practices in his life when he has high external commitments?
Yeah. So when I wrote the first edition of the book, it was very much like a type A. I was like all or nothing, like, wake up an hour earlier and do all 6 savers and it'll change your life like it changed my life. And that worked for most people. But this new edition, I would say it's written with a little more gentle as I've gotten older, like a little more empathy, going, hey, you might be busy. You might have a newborn baby. You might work the night shift. You might be so overwhelmed that the idea of getting up a minute earlier stresses you out even more, right? So I really come from that place. And so to answer Michael's question. Let me answer it this way. When I end my keynote, when I speak on the Miracle Morning in my keynote, I used to say, wake up an hour earlier and do the savers. Now I say, wake up at least 10 minutes earlier. If you want to do more, great. You want to do half an hour, great. But anyone can do 10 minutes. Even if you're so busy, you're like, I already get up at 5 a.m. Okay, get up at 4:50 or 4:45, right? And then read for 5 or 10 minutes. Just do the R in savers because you don't have to think. You're just doing whatever's in front of you. And so what I tell a lot of people is if you've never read the Miracle Morning, you wake up, 10 or 15 minutes earlier and just do your reading. And as you're reading the Miracle Morning, within, a few days, maybe a week, you get to the chapter on silence, the savers. And then the next day, integrate a period of, a few minutes of silence. And maybe it cuts into your reading. Maybe you add it, whatever feels right. And then you get to the chapter on affirmations and you add that into your Miracle Morning. And then visualization and so on. And so rather than jumping in with both feet and carving out a half an hour or an hour, you wake up a tiny bit earlier and you read the book. And then all of a sudden, within a week or two, you've done all the savers. You can start your 30-day journey. Still only needs to be as little as 6 minutes a day. So that's it. I would lean into it versus dive or jump with both feet.
Fabian's asking, what's your number one advice concerning how to establish new routines?
So there's a chapter in the book I talk about. It's called From Unbearable to Unstoppable. And it's based on this idea that when you start a new habit, it can feel unbearable. In fact, most people don't even start the new habit because they're like, I've never run before. I've never woken up early. I'm not a morning person. We have all these either limiting beliefs or these fears around getting out of our comfort zone. So in the beginning, a new habit can feel unbearable. There are 3 phases to this sequence. The first 10 days of a new habit, and by the way, this is malleable. It might be the first 2 days. It might even be where the first 2 days are exciting, and then it becomes unbearable when the new excitement wears off. Now, days 2 through 10 are unbearable, right? But the second phase is uncomfortable. So days 11 through 20, and I frame this around the 30-day Miracle Morning journey, that your first 10 days at times might feel unbearable. But you have to understand that every day you do it, you're acclimating to the new habit. The second 10 days are uncomfortable, meaning it's not unbearable anymore, but it might be like, I'd rather not do it. It would be easier to just sleep in. It'd be easier to eat the food that's unhealthy but tastes good. That middle ground is the uncomfortable phase. And then days 21 through 30 are the unstoppable phase, because you start developing that new habit becomes default. Waking up is not hard anymore. Going for a run's actually fun. I hated it 20 days ago. Now I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. And once you reinforce through positive reinforcement for those 10 days, you become unstoppable, because this thing that, a month ago or 20 days ago felt like it was, you didn't know if you could do it. You were scared. You were afraid of failure. Now it's like, this is part of who I am. I'm a morning person. I'm a runner. I can do this forever, and I will.
Before we get into any last questions in the time remaining, I want to blow your mind a little.
All right. Blow my mind. You do often, Gio.
I try. So you are speaking at our Archangel Summit event, which is September 21st, 2024. The event is called Unleashed. And the whole premise is we're going to have the best people on stage and in the audience around unleashing the best version of you for all of us who are attending, where whatever your big dreams are for the future, we're going to make sure that you become the person that can make those dreams a reality. And you've spoken at my events before. You've been to events, so I do my best with production to make that.
You put on the best events that I've ever been to, man. So yeah, hands down.
But see, I have to up the game. So here's
which is hard for. I mean, go ahead.
Well, let me explain what we're going to do, because we're going to actually make history with this experience. We've also produced films, and one that's won Emmy Awards, and so I have the event producer side of me and the film producer side, and this is the first time we're combining them in one experience. So to tease you, imagine if Cirque du Soleil and Christopher Nolan produced a personal transformation event, where you will literally, you and everyone attending will feel like you're in a movie, because we're actually, like,
Wow.
I've hired a cinematographer, I've hired an Emmy nominated script writer who wrote for the X-Men series and 20 other films and TV series. There will be a script and a storyline, visuals and performers, and the most incredible one day experience literally ever, where people attending will leave being transformed just by being there, but
Amazing.
also from everything they're learning from you and everyone else on stage. So if you're watching this replay, archangelsummit.com, archangelsummit.com is where you can register to join the waiting list for the event, and eventually get tickets. It's happening September 21st in Toronto. By far the best event we've ever done. So I'm so excited to have you here with us.
Tell me the date again. It's September 21st, right?
Correct.
Sorry, I'm sending a note to my daughter saying, Sophia, you have to go to the event I'm speaking at on September 21st in Toronto.
Okay, one last, well, thank you. And I can't wait to have her join us.
Yeah.
Angie's asking, do you have a specific form of meditation that you do?
Yes. So, we didn't talk about this. We went over to affirmations. So in the book, I teach it. It's called emotional optimization meditation, and I made it up. Although I hate to say that, because sometimes you think you made something up and then you read it in a book written in like 1937. You're like, oh, I guess I didn't make it up, but I think I made it up. And for me, what it was is the idea of clearing your mind and just trying to think of nothing. There's value in that for sure, but I'm a very like proactive, results-oriented person. Like I want to experience an immediate benefit. If you've ever meditated for 10 minutes and then you're like, was that a waste of 10 minutes? Should I have like done something else, Or you don't even meditate because you're like, I need to do things. Emotional optimization meditation is where you look at your schedule for the day, or you just know at this time in my life or on this day, what is my optimal mental and emotional state? And then in the book, I walk you through how to actually get yourself into your peak mental and emotional state that will best serve you that day. And then set your timer for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes. And then you meditate in that state. And what you're doing is you're creating neural pathways. You are literally programming your subconscious mind and hardwiring that emotional state so you can access it at will during the day. One thing I teach is how to, while you're doing it, have your hand on your heart or some form of physical anchor, so that during the day, if you needed confidence that day and you utilize your practice in the morning, your emotional optimization meditation, now it's 2 PM, maybe it's a fist, right? You're using like Tony Robbins anchor type technology, but whatever it is, you immediately use that physical representation to immediately harness that state that you hardwired that morning. And the last thing I'll say is, over an extended period of time, you are able to hardwire your optimal mental and emotional states across the board. It's like a buffet where you're like, I need joy. Oh yeah, I meditate on that like 3 days a week. I need confidence. Oh yeah, I did that yesterday. Easy peasy. So to me, the quality of our lives is the quality of our inner state. And this teaches you how to optimize yours every day and over the long run.
First of all, this has been mind-blowing for me. So thank you. I always love talking to you. And what we've done today, this session, I'm calling it Backstage with me, Giovanni, and you, Hal. And I'm doing this once a month as a gift, where you can join live or watch the replay on YouTube once we post it. Because it's one thing to have you on stage at our event teaching, but I want the intimacy of our community getting to know our speakers in this way. And for anyone to watch it for free, to have valuable insights like this, where they don't have to pay for anything. It's a gift from me and you to the world. So thank you for this. We're going to do once a month. First of all, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube, archangelsummit.com. If you want to attend the next one for free, it's always on a Friday afternoon. Thank you, Hal, for hanging out with me today. I can't wait to see you in Toronto. I will see you before that. I'll come to Austin and come hang out with
each other before that. Yeah,
for sure. And thank you for everyone who attended live. I appreciate all of you here. We'll send out the replay very soon on YouTube. Love and appreciate all of you. Hal, thank you. See you.
I love you, Gio. It's been a pleasure, brother. Thank you so much.
All right. See you all soon. Bye-bye.